Somewhere on your rigging invoice is a number that decides whether your electronics survive a full season offshore. It's not the price of the plotter. It's not the horsepower rating. It's 3%. Remember that number, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's the difference between a system that works every trip and one that quietly fails at the worst possible moment. Today, I'm breaking down 4 rigging packages that are actually worth the extra money, backed by the standards and the specs, not the sales brochure. Let's start with the one nobody asks about at the dealership because you can't see it. The wiring harness. A BYCE 11 sets 2 limits for marine wiring, and a boat has to satisfy both. The wire has to carry the current without overheating, and it has to keep voltage drop under control. For critical circuits, that's electronics, navigation lights, bilge blowers, and panel feeders, the limit is 3%. For everything else, it's 10. Here's what that actually means on your boat. On a 12-volt system, 3% works out to just 36 hundredths of a volt. That's the entire cushion between a windlass that cranks hard and one that stalls under load. Getting there comes down to wire gauge, sized correctly for the length of the run, not just the amperage. A 15-amp circuit on a 60-foot round-trip run needs 4 AWG wire minimum to stay under that limit. 6 AWG falls just short. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a compliant install and one that's already in violation before you've even turned anything on. Separately, there's the corrosion problem. Factory-rigged boats use tinned copper, rated for 105 degrees Celsius, because raw copper corrodes fast in a salt environment. Cut-rate rigging skips it. On the hull truth, owners have documented builders swapping an automotive-grade wire to save a few dollars, wire that isn't tinned, that corrodes at every connection point. It looks identical on day 1. It fails 18 months later, usually offshore. Marine surveyor Steve D'Antonio, who holds multiple ABYC certifications, has said plainly that following ABYC guidelines is one of the clearest ways to improve a boat's systems, because the standards are already spelled out. The problem isn't that the rules are unclear. It's that not every builder follows them to the letter. Here's why this matters more than most owners think. A wiring harness isn't a one-time install. It's the nervous system every other upgrade you make gets bolted onto. Add a new plotter, a new pump, a new set of underwater lights, and you're tapping into that same harness. If it was sized right and tinned right from day 1, every addition after it inherits that quality. If it wasn't, every addition after it inherits the problem too, and you won't find out until something fails at the worst possible moment, 40 miles offshore instead of at the dock. That's package 1. Foundational, invisible, and it's the one packages 2, 3, and 4 all depend on. Package 2 is the multi-pump sea-chest livewell system, and this is where rigging quality becomes a life-or-death issue for your bait. Here's the problem it solves. On a stepped hull running at speed, the bottom intakes ventilate, meaning they suck air instead of water. A single pump plumbed straight to a through hull will cavitate, airlock, and your livewell goes from full of water to full of foam. A sea chest fixes that with one sealed reservoir in the bilge, fed by a dedicated pickup with 2 to 6 independent pumps drawing from it instead of the open hull. Hooker Electric builds these in 3 sizes: 2,500 gallons an hour, 4,500, 7,500. The chest itself is 3/16 L stainless steel, passivated and powder-coated. Freeman runs a standard triple-outlet sea chest array specifically to solve this problem. Valhalla goes further, making the Hooker sea chest standard equipment on every model down to the smallest hull in the lineup, not an option list item. Before I tell you the mistake most owners make with this system, hit subscribe. I put out 2 of these teardowns a week, and if you're upgrading a boat in the next year, you want the next 3 in your feed. Here's that mistake. You never run 2 pumps on the same chest at once. It's not a preference, it's a mechanical rule. Do it, and you can pull a vacuum lock inside the chest that stalls flow to both wells and, in worse cases, burns out a pump motor. A factory installation labels this and wires the switching to prevent it. A rigging job that skips that detail hands you a $5,000 system with a foot gun built in. That's the sea chest. Package 3 takes everything running through your boat's wiring and actually makes it talk to each other. A factory-integrated electronics package isn't just a bigger screen. It's a properly engineered NMEA 2000 backbone, 1 CAN bus cable carrying power and data to every device on the boat, correctly fused, correctly terminated, built on the same voltage drop math from Package 1. That math is what actually breaks systems on the water. NMEA 2000 devices need at least 9 volts to function. On a boat with a long backbone run and a mediocre layout, you can lose over 1.5 volts just getting to the bow. Now stack engine cranking on top of that, which can sag your battery down to 10.5 volts. A bow-mounted GPS antenna can drop below the 9-volt cutoff and just disappear from the network. Anglers call it a ghost in the system. It's not a bad sensor. It's the same voltage drop math from your wiring harness, showing up in a different system. Regulator and Sportsman both went all in on solving this at the factory level. Every regulator built since 2020 comes standard with a Garmin package, plotters, radar, and autopilot, fully integrated from one builder. Sportsman calls theirs SportLink, standard fleet-wide since 2019, backed by a 3-year warranty specifically because they own the entire install from harness to screen. Compare that to a boat where the plotter came from one dealer add-on, the radar from another, and the backbone was pieced together after the fact. Every junction between those separate jobs is another chance for someone to skip the fusing spec or run the backbone a few feet longer than they should have. When one company builds and warranties the whole chain, voltage drop gets designed out from the blueprint instead of discovered on the water, usually by you, usually at the worst time. Which brings us to the package that costs the most, and it's the one tournament anglers actually feel every single fishing day. Hydraulic outriggers. Specifically, Rupp Marine's Power Rigger system. A manual outrigger means someone leaves the helm, walks back, and hand cranks a pole out while you're marking fish. A hydraulic system deploys both riggers at the push of a button without anyone leaving the wheel. Rupp's current Generation 2 unit is 39 pounds, a third lighter than the previous generation. It pairs with outriggers ranging from 28 feet up to 57 feet. Here's the number. The standard version starts at $15,750. The deluxe, which adds power raise and lower to clear bridges, starts at $21,500. And that's before you've bought the outriggers themselves. Is it worth it? Look at who runs it. Valhalla makes Rupp Outrigger poles standard equipment across their entire base package, the same base package that includes the hooker sea chest and the tinned wiring harness we opened this video with. Valhalla even molds a mounting structure for a Seakeeper gyro stabilizer directly into the stringer grid on those same hulls. Standard construction, whether or not the owner adds the unit itself. Every package we've covered, stacked into one build philosophy. And offshore captains on forums like The Hull Truth consistently rank Rupp above competing hydraulic brands specifically on long-term reliability, the kind that matters when you're running this gear 5 days a week during tournament season, not 5 days a year. That's the real case for paying for this package. It's not about looking rigged, it's about not losing the bite because someone had to leave the helm to crank a pole by hand, and it's about a system built to survive being cycled dozens of times a day, not once or twice a weekend. 4 packages. Wiring that keeps every volt where it belongs. A sea chest that keeps your bait alive when the hull is airborne at 40 knots. An electronics backbone that turns 4 separate screens into one system. And hydraulics that put lines in the water the second you mark fish instead of 30 seconds later. Remember that number from the start of this video. 3%. It shows up in the wiring, it shows up in your electronics, and it's the thread that ties every one of these packages together. Pay for the boat that respects that number, and every other system downstream from it works the way it's supposed to. I'm Joe Castellano. This is Joe's Rigging Report. I'll see you in the next teardown.